Learn the pivot compression golf swing. Join WDGLC.com today.
Hey there everybody, it's Wayne Defrancesco. Welcome to my website, and we're looking today at two guys that were contending last week, Jason Dufner and Ken Duke. Dufner ended up winning, and
Peter Costas, how did you see it?
Duke didn't, but he certainly played nicely.
Ken Duke. Hey, Birdie.
So let's take a look at these two swings, because it's pretty interesting. They're quite similar actually, and while they don't incorporate all the stuff that I like in the swing, there's a number of things that I emphasize and prefer in the swing that both these guys are doing. First thing you'll note, and these are driver swings, so if they were going to be long, these would be the swings that would be longer. You're going to see two swings that would appear to be in the 3/4 range. Dufner goes 5'10", 180. Duke's a little bigger guy, 6'1", 200. So both fairly powerful guys. I think Duke is probably going to drive it a little longer than Dufner, but neither one of them are bombers. But let's take a look at these two swings. Now again, cameras are usually not aligned perfectly, and they're moving around a little bit, so we'll just look at what we can look at here. Pretty similar in the setup position. In this picture, Dufner's a little more erect than Duke. Duke's a little taller. I would say that, if anything, Dufner's a little more toward the balls of his feet than Duke. Duke looks more in the middle of his feet here. So let's take a look. Now, both these guys, when they take the club away, get the club up the shaft plane pretty nicely, with the hands coming in toward the body. Duke's hands are pretty neutral as far as coming back. They're going not quite as inward, but his club will come up in the air and pass by right against his hands. It's a big deal to get your swing started like that. If we look at an iron swing of Dufner, just look at one that's from this week. And take a look at the club going back. So I really try to get all my students to incorporate a takeaway that will get the club to come up the shaft plane. You can see how the club head elevates and the right arm is folding. Now, in Dufner's swing, it's pretty obvious that he's got the pivot starting that movement. So if you look at this,
Did a quick fix make your swing worse? Wayne Defrancesco will get your swing back on track at WDGLC.com.
slowly, if I play that back and forth, you see that trigger movement is a forward movement of the right leg and then a back movement in response. The whole pivot begins to turn, and that includes from the ground the hips, and then the trunk, and then the arms, and then the hands, and then the club. So instead of club head, hands, arms, shoulders, hips, in that order, we've got a reverse of that. We've got from the ground up, we got legs, hips, trunk, shoulders, arms, hands. Last thing that comes back is the club. So there was Costas doing a look-see at Dufner's swing from the front, and you can see it here anytime you can see that shaft bending in the backswing this way, you know that the hands are moving before the club, so the handle's moving back. Now Dufner's got a pretty strong grip, and you'll see that in the club face position at the top. So anytime your left arm is fairly horizontal and you got a strong grip, unless you cup the heck out of it, that club face is going to look a little shut. So you can see it up here looking a little closed. But look at the relatively horizontal position of that left arm here. Let's watch Ken. Not as horizontal as Dufner's, but still, look at the right arm position here, both low and in front of them. Now, as you watch this, if you look at Duke's swing, his right arm gets a little bit deeper than Dufner's. Dufner will stop his arm, and you can see the elbow fold from the front view. You can see the elbow fold underneath the left arm. Here's an iron shot. So here's one that's coming up the plane a little more. Now some of these shots might be trying to shape the ball a little differently. But at this point in the swing, you can see that his right elbow does not reach his side. And if we were to go over to one of Ken's iron shots, you'll see that his right arm is moving a little differently here. Now if you look at Duke's head, you'll see just a slight bit of lowering. Now that's pretty common for somebody who is, you don't see too many guys bent over this much. Certainly Dufner's bent over a bit too, just not as much. Of course the cameraman had to spice up the shot by moving the camera around, so but Dufner does lower his head just a hair going back. You can kind of see it here. Now both of them incorporate a real sidearm movement into the forward swing, and if you've watched my videos, you'll know that one of the things that I really like to see is the grip end heading for the ball as the right forearm goes from a bit more horizontal to a bit more vertical. You can see the movement there. And the upper right arm, which is here, is going to move to a point that's in front of the rib cage. Now Duke really accentuates that, gets his hands forward. And both these guys have a tendency to pull away just a hair as they're hitting it. You can see that. And if you pull back like that, it allows you to roll your hands over more. If they stayed out over the ball, the right arm wouldn't feel like it threw as much there. But look how hard he goes left here in the finish. Watch where this club exits out of here. Look at that left arm. You don't see too many finishes like that. And if we watch Dufner here, a little more extended in front of him, but again, look at the left forearm. Now if you look at my swing, I can't get my body around that left side around like that, or the right side extended like that, you know, due to problems I have in my lower back. Duke actually had surgery on, he had scoliosis when he was young and had surgery. He's got rods in his back, so he's built this swing around a bad back, kind of the way I tried to do. But again, it's notable that both of these swings are on the short side. And yet generate power and accuracy. So moving that handle, let's take a look at Dufner here. So there's the line out to the ball. Take a look at where the hands are going. Now, Dufner's real interesting because when he stops his right arm very early, and when he starts forward, it's a little more of a steepening move. So from the club being flat, he steepens it, but he keeps perfect control of it. And again, they're both coming in much higher than the shaft plane. They both start with low hands. If you watch, take a look at where that shaft cuts through him here, as opposed to something that would be up by the belly button up here. But you'll note that the approach is much, much higher. And if we look at Duke's, we got it's the same idea here. Of course, that camera's moving a hair too. So, but anyway, you can see it that at impact, Duke has gone from a position of like 42 to up to 49. And Dufner's also at right around 42.3 here. That's what I drew it. When he's at address, so we got him at 40 and striking the ball way up here, 46.7. So significantly higher. Now part of that is where the club is at address, kind of low. And then with the right arm a little pinched but driving inward, we get that sidearm feel. Now, I contend to people that it's a little bit more complicated to bend that left wrist down from a high approach than it is to do what Hogan would do and come in less up than that. However, you can see that if you've got a number of nice things in your swing, if you don't have to obsess about approaching on the shaft plane, although it's a good thing to practice and a good thing to shoot for. But what I like about these two guys is look at the freedom and spacing in the right arm. Looks gorgeous to me. Just plenty of room. So having the hands come in high is kind of a correlation with the head backing up a little bit. Now, is that optimum? Not really. But again, the golf swing doesn't have to be perfect for you to hit the ball good. And certainly nobody flushes it every week and hits it great all the time. So, these swings have a certain amount of feel to the player, and they're going to work better in stretches than in others. But I think some of these main ideas here, if we watch the pivot movement, if we look at the legs, you rarely see any of these good players shooting up underneath themselves out of the box. They're usually in the box at the cameras still. And you can see both these guys have great depth in the hips. And that right arm's got tons of space there. So, two very interesting swings, both of which I like. Ken Duke and Jason Dufner.